Hi people, it's me, Anja. My pronouns are she and her, and welcome back to my channel for a new video. Today's video is focused on my thoughts on Sunrise on the Leaping, which, if you didn't know, is the newest Hunger Games book. This book focuses on Haymitch's Hunger Games, which, first of all, are the second quarter quell, but second of all, more importantly, Haymitch is the mentor of Katniss and Peeta from the original trilogy. If you didn't know that, I'm sure you did. But anyway, I'm so excited to read this book. This book is one of my most anticipated 2025 new releases, if not my most anticipated 2025 new release, just because I am the biggest Hunger Games fan. I love the Hunger Games, the original trilogy, so much. I really also enjoy the prequel focused on Snow. I love the characters, the plot, the writing, the pacing, the world building, but especially, most importantly, the political commentary. I'm so excited to read this book. Haymitch is such a beloved character from the original trilogy. I really think that hearing his inner thoughts and actions, especially for him as a teenager, will be really, really interesting. And I don't know, I'm just so excited to read this book. I think it's going to be so awesome. Catching Fire is definitely my favorite book from the trilogy. And with that said, even though we already know how his games end, we don't actually know how his games will begin. And again, like I said, his Hunger Games were the second quarter quell, which means that there were 50 tributes in the arena rather than the usual 24. There were 48 tributes instead of the usual 24, which is what I meant. Anyway, which means that there will be more deaths at the very beginning, because in the first Hunger Games, the bloodbath on the first day is when the majority of the tributes die. You know what I mean? If you've read the original trilogy, you know exactly what I'm referencing. But anyway, with that said, I'm thinking that within these games, the stakes will be higher since more people are going to die. You know what I mean? I haven't really read any of the sneak peeks for this book quite yet, but I have heard that it was revealed that Haymitch's birthday is the same day as Leaping Day, which is also Independence Day, which I see the irony in, obviously, because Independence Day in America is supposed to be the day that America was freed by, the British Empire or whatever, but it's quite ironic because it's only for white people. You know what I mean? All of the enslaved people and women and disabled people and everyone in America have always been screwed over, and so Independence Day doesn't really mean anything to them historically. So having Independence Day in the Hunger Games be on his birthday is quite ironic, because your birthday is supposed to be a day of celebration, but for him it's not a day of celebration, because instead he's going to see hundreds of kids every year get leaped and most of them die. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes any sense at all. But anyway, let's get started. So I've just barely started the book, but these quotes at the very beginning of the book really set the precedent, because again, my favorite part about the Hunger Games universe is the political commentary. I really think the movies really don't go into that at all from what I've seen so far. I actually haven't seen the Mockingjay movies, but from the first Hunger Games movie and the Catching Fire movie and the Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes movie, I feel the movies don't really go into the political commentary as much as I think that they should. They really focus more on the action scenes and the costuming and the characters. Actually, not really the characters. The movies are way more plot-driven than the books are, in my opinion. But anyway, I digress. Overall, I'm so excited for this book. The quotes really set a precedent. I understand that Suzanne Collins was inspired by, propaganda and, the idea that, propaganda fuels that oppressed people can't really do anything about it. You know what I mean? Because, if you feed that idea into the brain of a person that is already oppressed, they might feel they have to obey the system, and they can't rebel against it, which is so unfair and it's so untrue, honestly. So anyway, the fact that Haymitch is in District 12, I know speaks a lot to me, just because I'm Black, I'm disabled, I'm a woman of color, You know what I mean? Like, I am oppressed in many different ways. And, like, District 12 is one of the most oppressed of all the districts, in my understanding. So, I don't know if anything I'm saying really makes any sense. And I feel like I'm going to make less sense as this video goes on. But basically, I'm so excited. So, let's get into the bread and butter. No pun intended. Hi. So, I just finished the first 2 chapters. First of all, what the fuck? How naive I was to assume that Haymitch was just chosen like any other tribute. What do you mean the other male tribute was shot because he defied them, and then they chose Haymitch because he decided to help his girlfriend? What? Excuse me? I'm shocked. I'm literally in shock, but I'm very excited. But aside from that, all of the references that we got so far is absolutely so exciting. I know there will be some people out there who will argue that this book is fan service. Personally, I don't care. I'm a fan. Like, I love The Hunger Games, as previously discussed. So I think it's very interesting that, first of all, Haymitch knows Katniss's parents, which kind of makes sense, given, like, their ages and everything. Second of all, I already knew that Katniss's mom's friend, who is the mother of Katniss's friend in the Hunger Games, who gave her the original Mockingjay pin, and her dad is the mayor. I knew that she was chosen for the Hunger Games, so I already knew that that reference would be in here. As for the other young girl, who's 13 years old, holy shit, like, I'm very curious for the dynamic of the 4 of them. Not that I'm necessarily expecting the 4 of them to be best friends or anything like that, but I'm just interested in them as characters, and also when exactly they're going to die. But, like, also the segment of, like, them filming their reactions of the parents and the families in order to, like, blackmail them into, like, getting extra time with their tribute children who were just chosen for the death games? That's manipulative. That's diabolical. What? That's crazy. Anyway, I forget that, like, only 50 games have happened so far. So many of the details in the Hunger Games and how those games were orchestrated with the reactions and everything were so, like, solid, whereas this Hunger Games seems a little bit more, I don't know, messy? I don't know if that makes any sense, but, like, anyway, that's where I'm at right now. So I've read 2 more chapters now, and first of all, I really like all the backstory and the lore behind the Covey and District 12, and how I'm pretty sure Lenore and Lucy Gray are related, since they do share a last name. And I also really love Maisie. Is that how you pronounce her name? I'm not quite sure. Anyway, I really love her as a character. When I first was introduced to her from the original trilogy, I've always wanted to know more about her, especially with her connection to Katniss and the Mockingjay pin and everything, especially since I'm pretty sure, or at least I believe this book is implying, I can't quite remember, but I think that her grandmother worked in the Capitol, so I think that that detail is really interesting, especially in the ways in which she treats the people around her and herself. And I think in Catching Fire, it's implied that she's one of the last people to die. You know, I think that she's dead right before Haymitch wins, I think. I'm not quite sure, but I think that she's definitely one of the last 5 people to die. But anyway, I'm loving her character. I love Luella. Luella's age is definitely a disadvantage for her, and I'm definitely seeing a parallel in Luella and Haymitch's relationship, and Katniss and Lu's relationship, or at least Katniss and Prim. You know what I mean? So I love that dynamic so far. Again, I'm only 4 chapters in, and I'm also really enjoying Wyatt. He's kind of reminded me of a few characters from the Snow prequel that I can't quite remember the names of, but I'll get back to you on that. I guess I'll be updating every 2 chapters now. Anyway, Luella's dead, and Mags and Wireless are their mentors. I was shocked when Wireless showed up. I was not expecting to see her again. Mags, I love Mags. Everybody loves Mags. Raise your hand if you love Mags. Everybody loves Mags. I'm so excited. Oh my gosh, this is crazy. But it's so cool. Also, the way that Wireless won her games is genius. She's a genius. She's so cool and inventive and awesome. And I'm so excited. Oh my gosh. Anyway, the book so far, writing-wise, the pacing is excellent. So much has happened so far. Again, I've only read 6 chapters, but like I'm excited. I'm on the edge of my seat. This book is going to be 5 stars. I already knew that before, but here we are. Anyway, this book is so exciting and so thrilling so far, but it's also quite heartbreaking right off the bat. What do you mean Luella's dead? It kind of makes sense. I don't know. That makes me sound like a bitch, but it kind of makes sense that, like, they're going to kill some people before the game has already started, because 48 people is so many. It's like that game in Squid Game. When I was watching it, I was like, yeah, it makes sense they're going to eliminate half of them immediately. I don't really know which game I'm referring to in my head, but I think it's the glass one, or maybe the marbles. Anyway, the point is, I'm excited to continue this book, but I will say it's very heartbreaking, and it's way more violent than I was really expecting it to be, which sounds naive of me as a true fan of the Hunger Games. But anyway, that's where I'm at right now. Hi, so I'm now on chapter 12, which means that I've finished part 1, and I have more thoughts. First of all, the fact that they've replaced Lou so quickly is so bizarre to me, but it kind of makes sense because obviously they want to start the games, and they being the capital with the same amount of kids that they like promised everybody who's watching at home. You know what I mean? They can't like tell anybody that something's off, but it is bizarre to me that they just brainwashed a child so easily and so quickly. It's quite bizarre, and I hope that we get to hear more from this young girl in the future, but she's probably going to die so soon anyway. Second of all, Ampert being BT's son was quite a surprise to me, just because I don't remember learning anything before about BT's personal life. I don't think that anything is mentioned about him prior to this, except for like how he won his games and everything. Third of all, I said earlier that Wyatt reminded me of some other characters in previous Hunger Games books, and I've just remembered that he reminds me of Jessup from the Snow prequel and Thresh from the original Hunger Games first book. And honestly, in the upcoming movie adaptation of this book, I wouldn't be surprised if they cast him using a black actor, and I will not be elaborating on that. But basically the ways in which like the Hunger Games movies treats the black characters has always been very interesting to me as a black person myself. Does that make any sense? But anyways, the movies, like I mentioned earlier, aren't often super deep or anything like that, and they focus way more on the action and the plot than the characters and the political commentary. But anyway, all that to say, that's it for now. I've now finished 61% of the book, also known as 16 chapters, if I'm not mistaken. And basically, first of all, Wyatt is dead, and he died much sooner than I was really expecting to, honestly. Lulu is also dead, which is sad, but also expected just because of her age. But also, I'm really interested as to who she is. Like, her identity prior to being brainwashed and everything. I have a theory that she might be related to Lou, just because of, like, the fact that she's from District 11. You know what I mean? But obviously not everyone from District 11 is related to ruined flesh. You know what I mean? Anyway, maybe I'm reaching is my point. But that's where I'm at right now. So I'm about 78% through this book now. Maisley's dead. There are only 3 people left. And I think that Welly is going to starve herself to death, unfortunately. And then it will be between Haymitch and Silka. And I already know how Silka is going to die because, like I said before, I've read Catching Fire. Now, I said earlier that I was going to rate this book 5 stars. And honestly, I think I'm going to rate it 4 stars. Just because I'm enjoying the characters and the plot and the world building and the pacing for sure. But honestly, like, I enjoyed this book more in the first half than in the second half. Or at least the first 2/3 before the games really started. Then the second half, which is the opposite of my enjoyment of the original trilogy. But I also think that Suzanne, like, writes better when she's writing a series than writing, like, standalones. If that makes any sense. I don't know if it does. But anyway, let's get started. Let's get into the ending. So, in conclusion, I've finished the book and I'm rating it 4 out of 5 stars. Honestly, as much as I really appreciated the character cameos and the character connections from the previous books, especially the Lucy Gray references, I think this book feels like fan service because it doesn't quite stand on its own, and the political commentary, to me, falls completely flat just because since I've already read the original trilogy, I already know how propaganda works. I know that marginalized characters and marginalized people can rise up and rise against, like, oppressive governments and can win. You know what I mean? Like, I already know that. So, like, the games itself, since I know how it ends from Catching Fire, like, it felt completely so redundant to me, and the epilogue felt so unnecessary. You know what I mean? I don't really know if that makes any sense at all, but basically, like I said earlier, the first half of this book was way more thrilling and more exciting than the second half, just because I had no idea what would happen next. And also, the plan about, like, dismantling the arena with BT's son, I knew would go nowhere because I knew that he was going to die. You know what I mean? I don't know if that really makes any sense at all. But basically, overall, I rated this book 4 out of 5 stars. Take that as you will, and I feel like it felt like fan service to me, but, like, in a bad way. So I forgot to comment on the deaths of Haymitch's family and girlfriend just because I was too busy talking about other things. So, first of all, Haymitch coming home hoping to reunite with his family only to see them burned to death was crazy. What? Second of all, the same thing happening with Lenore, again expecting, like, a happy reunion and then kind of getting one, and then seeing her be poisoned by the gumdrops was also crazy. Whiplash center. You know what I mean? That was nuts. But, like, it was very interesting and fascinating from a writer's perspective. But anyway, overall, my thoughts are that The Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, in my opinion, is better than this book. This book feels like fan service, and I mean that in, like, a bad way, in the sense that, like I said, I don't think this story really stands on its own. Like, I loved the character connections. I loved seeing Mags and Wireless and BT and, like, Effie and everyone again. But, like, I don't know. I wanted something new. I wanted to, like, see her genius. Like, for me, Suzanne Collins reinvented the wheel with the original Hunger Games trilogy. And this book just felt kind of, I don't know, cheap compared to that. I don't know if that really makes any sense, and I keep saying that because I feel like I'm going to receive quite a lot of flack for my opinions, honestly. But anyway, in conclusion, if you enjoyed this video, please don't hesitate to give it a big thumbs up. Comment down below the snake emoji if you made it all the way to the end of the video. Thanks for watching, subscribe to my channel if you're new, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!